Hello and welcome to the Gambling Files podcast, the podcast that lights up the life of white goods salesmen everywhere. I'm one of your hosts, John Bruford, joined by your other host, Mr. Fintan Costello. Fintan, hello.
If everything I tell you is going to get used against me in the intro.
What? I don't know what you mean. I'm just, there's a great book. There's a great crime novel. I can't remember the author's name. That's really going to bother me. I'm going to have to Google it. No, it's not her. There it is. George Pelecanos. He's a terrific writer, and it's a really peculiar book, right? Basically, so I think it's a friend of his mother or something comes to him and says, "Look, son's disappeared. Something bad's going on. Can you look into it?" And he takes a job as a white goods salesman, and basically nothing happens apart from him selling white goods until the last couple of chapters. But it's fucking brilliant. It's such a good book. I mean, it shouldn't be. But then you think about it, format's kind of like Dracula. Like, not much happens in Dracula until the last couple of chapters. And in fact, Elizabeth Kostova's book, The Historian, which, famous auction story for the book. It was like $1 million auction for a first-time author. It was absolutely insane. But the structure of The Historian is also very, very similar to Dracula. But anyway, getting sidetracked here. What have you been up to?
Buying a washing machine and a vacuum cleaner.
Oh, yeah.
It's been a very glamorous day.
Yeah, but you got to do the essentials, right?
Yeah, you do. I'm a big believer in stuff you use a lot. Get it right. And,
I'm the same. I always say to Fern, the mother of my children and my ex and my friend, I always say to her, stop fucking about in sales. Identify the thing that you believe is the right tool for the job. Because if it is, then you will save money down the line. So she still doesn't listen.
I'm a huge believer. Because my dad had a construction business, or he was a self-employed contractor. And so I worked with him for years. And seeing the difference between using the right tool for the job and the wrong tool for the job is just like the physical difference of like, this is the wrong blade to be cutting this. And it's a nightmare and it's carnage and it's whatever. And then you switch to the right blade or whatever it is you're doing. And you're like, poof, God, that was easy. And that's kind of translated to, well, we're buying the washing machine. So let's get the one with the biggest capacity because that'll be very convenient. Or let's, get the vacuum cleaner with the best nozzles or I don't know, whatever the fucking things we're looking at today. Because it's stuff we're going to use every day and it should be just make your life as easy as possible.
I'm very simple with my vacuum cleaner choices. I generally buy a Henry vacuum cleaner. Because when you see builders and cleaning professionals in the UK using a vacuum cleaner, it's always a Henry.
It's always. Do you know why?
Because they like the little googly eyes.
Yeah, so for the non-UK listeners, the Henry vacuum cleaner is like a little barrel vacuum cleaner on wheels. And there's where the nozzle comes out, they've designed it with like little eyes and it looks like a little person called Henry with a hat, effectively. And what a lot of cleaning companies realized was by personifying the vacuum cleaner, staff treat the vacuum cleaner more gently or more respect, whatever you want to put it. And basically it's a good vacuum cleaner, but you get better life out of it because it doesn't get bashed about as much because people are trying to look after their little Henry.
Holy fuck.
It says a lot about humans.
Yeah. Shit. I mean, I didn't even think of that. I better go take it off the barbecue. But they are very, very good vacuum cleaners. Fundamentally, if they weren't, I don't think the personification. What's the word? Anthropomorphization. I can't fucking remember that thing where you make something human.
That's the one.
I don't think that would make that much of a difference. Yeah, fundamentally, they're very good vacuums. I'm sure you don't have one of those. because they
I
they
don't.
no, they don't have the option for the diamond handles on those.
No, because you don't want a diamond handle vacuum, because if one of the diamonds falls off, it's straight up the vacuum, and then you got to dig it out, right? It'd be a nightmare.
Yeah, but
Um,
they set
I
them very
did come
carefully.
across. I
Sorry.
did come across diamond encrusted. I was getting the locks upgraded on my front door and stuff, and I was the lock company, or the lock type that the locksmith recommended. So I googled it and found their website and looked through all their stuff. And this company also makes, like, I don't know, I want to call it like the Dubai version of keys and locks. So if you want it diamond encrusted, nothing says rob me more than a diamond encrusted lock, the hole, whatever you want. What's the fob? What's the thing you put the key into? Lock?
Keyhole.
Keyhole. That's it. A diamond encrusted. Nothing says rob me more than a diamond encrusted keyhole.
It's very
had
true.
all these like fancy
So
kind
many
of,
contexts.
had all these like these kind of fancy like Hogwarts style kind of encrusted things, and you could do all sorts of stuff. We didn't go for that, but it's nice to know I've got the option if it fancy ever strikes me.
No, it's a good shout. It's a good shout. In my big news is that the cat is here, and he has ventured outside.
Ooh, because you've got to give it a while before you let the cat outside, right? To make sure.
Well, he's been here 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay.
And then
So
people
he
say,
knows where he gets fed, right? He knows where.
"Oh yeah," but we've got a phenomenal bond anyway, so I'm not too worried about him buggering off. But I don't have a cat flap, so it's inevitably going to kick off with other cats because that's what they do. And he can't. There's no easy escape for him, basically, because he's going to get his ass handed to him a couple of times. Well, actually, I say that he's probably not. He's actually a really tough little cat, but he's much smaller than most cats. He's not like I think it's Burmese. So my ex-wife had a Burmese cat, and these things are very, very petite and absolutely stunningly beautiful cats, real great characters. But Jesus Christ, they don't know how to go backwards. It's not a gear for them. It's like if there's something threatening, they're just like, okay, let's do it. It's phenomenal. So this tiny little cat was
Got a bit of that tiger.
just wrecking all the cats.
Tiger DNA still in there.
And Pickle, Bernard Pickle, my cat, he's got that in him. Yeah, but he's a tremendous cat. He's a real character. So I'm really pleased to have him here. Dog's jealous as anything. Like, cat would just be there in my lap, and the cat would just be there flopped out as though it's got no bones in its body at all. And the dog would just come up and he would just drop his head into whatever's left of my lap that the cat's not occupying. And you're just like, that's really affectionate, but I wish I could just be left alone for a bit. Because I've just gone off my last call of the day, sorted my dinner out. I just want a little bit of time where nobody wants anything from me. And the cat is undemanding. I just want your body heat. And the dog is more of a, stroke me, please. Look at me. Look at my giant head. Look. Ooh. Fucking hell. Do you know what I mean? I'm a terrible person, aren't I?
It's unconditional love, though. You got to appreciate that.
Yeah, kind of. I guess so. But I've said before, it is difficult for the dog, and for me, because we don't have the bond that dogs frequently get with their owners. And his only crime is that he's following my dog. But he is a great dog, and he would be a once in a lifetime dog for somebody else. But unfortunately, he's lumbered with me. But there is talk that he might go and live at Fern's, because he gets on really, really well with her dogs, and they're all really playful. So I mean, that might be really good for them. So I don't know. We'll discuss, and maybe he'll spend a week there, a week here. So you can have a week going wild and a week of chilling. Don't know. It's complicated being me, Fintan. In other news, the world of... Do you want to know about the world of dating?
Sure. I'm always happy to live through other people who are on... Let me just mute this. Who are on the dating scene. That's something I've got.
Well, Fintan,
Any experience of?
It's shit.
Oh,
it was shit before, and it's still shit now.
Not quite as exciting.
Well, there's a couple of ladies I was chatting to, and one of them we went out for some food and stuff. But we were chatting and saying, we're like an hour and a quarter apart, something like that, and it's all winding country roads. And then it turns out that she doesn't drive at night, for excellent reasons. She was in a serious car accident, and has developed very real fears as a result of that. She's actually terrified of straight stretches of roads. And I'm like, well, living in Wales is perfect then, because there's like 2 fucking straight roads in the country. But driving at night,
motorway at the top, and then,
driving at night's a big no-no. So we were like, well, that's a bit of a shame, but maybe you'll meet somebody a bit closer to home. We were going to still go on a second date because she works in the nearest city, which is like 20 miles or so. But she was chatting to another chap, and she's decided he's a more viable option because he doesn't have the other commitments that I do. By which I mean he doesn't have kids.
Fair enough.
Because most people my age, their kids are grown up or very close to being grown up, and I started late, so I'm fucking screwed, aren't I, really? And there was another lady I was chatting to, and she's just, it was all going grand, all going absolutely lovely. I was at ICE, and then she was on holiday for a week, and she just got back off her holiday, and I got a message this morning saying, look, whatever this is, I'm not really feeling it. I said, okay, bye. Well, I know where this conversation's going, and I can't fucking, it was fine before you went on holiday. You went on holiday, did your holiday thing, but it's I think I believe that my previous plan, which was to actually be out in the world and meet actual people, is probably a better route to having a fuller life, relationship or not. It actually getting out and doing stuff is far more appealing than sitting and swiping some shitty fucking app. So after we've recorded, I've got another call a bit later on. I'll work on a podcast in the meantime, and after that second call, I'm going to get changed. I'm going to fuck off to the gym for an hour.
Come on. There we go.
For the first time in
yourself, John.
Fucking years. Well, some mornings you wake up and you think, shall I even get out of bed today? And I had one of those days.
I was definitely like that.
I had one of those this morning. I'm like, but actually I've really got to, because, I'm self-employed. I need some of those, what you call it, them dolphins.
Endorphins, baby.
Yeah, I need the dolphins in my head. And to just do something that's purely about me, which probably sounds stupid, but it's really easy to get, especially when you've got young children, it's really easy to get caught up in everything about everybody else. And then afterwards, I'll pop over to Ludlow, drop some eggs off, take Gareth his birthday present, sort out a cinema visit for the weekend with the kids. Should we go and see Wish, Migration, or the newer Trolls movie?
No idea. I don't know what any of those movies are.
Well, you're no fucking help, are you?
Sorry, man.
It's pretty disappointing. I mean, I could have advised you on a vacuum cleaner, but I didn't. But I could have.
That's okay. Well, my son's kind of aging out of all of that. He just wants to play video games online, and
they're coming for you, Fintan.
It's fire brigade. It's okay.
They're coming to your new home, Fintan.
Fucking protocol. Protocol. Abort. Shred the phones.
Just reminded me of one of the all-time great opening lines it's probably not the opening line in the movie. They're coming for you, Barbara. Anybody that can name that movie without Googling it, and I will know, send us an email and I'll send you a Gambling Files podcast laptop sticker.
Official stickers of the Gambling File podcast.
Or I might send you one of the less good ones, but I don't know. I might send you both. Ooh.
Yeah, I don't think they worked. I think the heads work better.
Yeah, the heads definitely work. That's some solid noggin-based branding. Speaking of solid noggin-based branding, we should mention two excellent sponsors.
They are excellent.
They are. I was looking at. Did you see the nice man from Optimove put? I don't know if it was a repost or whether he was putting the pictures on there, but there was a thing on LinkedIn about the advertising stuff they'd done at ICE.
Oh yeah, it was really good. They had all the billboard. So when you came in via the DLR, so basically you came in on the tube station, and they had most of the billboards on the way into as you walked into XL. And there were, but it wasn't just that, which I think that kind of takeover is really good, but also just the creative copy. The creative is actually really good as well, because it's basically just showing like how big they are and how many people in, the EGR Power50 use them, and how many of the operators in the US. Like I think 4 of the 5 top operators in the US use them, and like it was just like great stats of like, Jesus Christ, these guys know what they're about.
Well, I always say in this business, people want to know how other people are making money. Basically.
Oh yeah, well, fucking tell me about it. I love that game. How the fuck are they doing that? That idiot.
I hear that a lot.
WhatsApp groups. Really? Him? Huh. I'm too hard on myself. Everybody's got at least one of those in their lives. Yeah. So yeah, Optimove, they are the number one CRM marketing tool for the gambling industry. Simple as that. And over half of the EGR Power50 use them. It's brilliant. Give them a shout. Get the demo. Just go get the demo. That's all you got to do. Contact them.
You'll see exactly what we mean when you see the demo. You'll be like, oh yeah, they're right. You can probably, like, and apologies to all the CRM professionals out there, but you could probably get rid of quite a lot of your CRM department. You wouldn't get rid of them. You would retrain them to function in another part of the business.
If you want to save costs and increase revenue, it's the first thing I would do. If I was launching a brand, you would just go plug this in, one VIP manager, one CRM manager, and then just crack on until you got big. It's just such a no-brainer.
We're supposed to be having a follow-up demo, aren't we?
Yeah, we just need to book it in. Everything got a bit waylaid by us. And then we also have the utterly fantastic Clarion Gaming. Who are now post ICE, London ICE 2024, are now in full swing, getting ready for Barcelona 2025.
And all the other shit they do is quite a lot of stuff. I mean,
and everything in between. Everything in between.
Going on. It must be really busy. That's why they drive electric cars and stuff, I bet.
I honestly have so much respect for anybody who organizes events, because
I bet they've got nice vacuum cleaners.
I bet you do. I reckon Alex has got like one of those like Roomba things that just kind of drives around itself. Just like,
yeah, but I bet it's a really big one and it's being driven by a
No,
Why? Why?
no, John. Oh my
So,
god.
do you know, you say that about organising an event. I've organised some stuff, right?
Have you
I have organised some. I organised
recently?
a race, and the race
Yeah.
would have been back in 2012, I think. 2011, 2012. I organised a race in Ludlow,
Mm-hmm.
and that was pretty cool. The prize giving was done by Rosie Swale Pope, who famously ran solo around the world. If you haven't read
Oh
that
wow, that's
book,
cool.
Fintan, that's a really good book. It's called Just a Little Run Around the World.
I haven't read that book. I'm going to write it down immediately.
Rosie is a bit of a superstar.
Books.
And
Just a
actually,
little
if she goes from Tenby in Wales straight across the UK, and I think she goes across to the Hook and through Holland and straight across Russia. It's a fantastic book. So we had Rosie there,
Mm-hmm.
and we did a comedy event in the evening with some really brilliant comics. It was good. It was good. I mean, it was a financial disaster, but it was a good day and a good night. Everybody that ran the race said the race was phenomenal. But the thing is, right, we did this thing in the race. We had these volunteers in the race, right? So we did
Mm-hmm.
it as a fundraiser for Joel's Wish, which I've mentioned before on this podcast. It was some friends of mine, John and Zoe Lawrence, who lost their son Joel. I think Joel was 19 when he died, to a very aggressive form of bowel cancer, which is quite unusual in a teenager.
Oof. Yeah, for
And
sure.
they decided to set up a charitable body, which was aimed at helping families who had older teenagers who were undergoing cancer treatments, because they're treated as adults for all intents and purposes, but in almost all instances they live at home with their parents. And it puts a lot of financial stress on people, and just things like helping out with fuel costs or hotel costs, etc., etc. So we put on this race for them. We had, a few hundred runners, beautiful course, ran through a private estate just outside Ludlow, came straight up the most picturesque street, for my money, in the UK, Broad Street in Ludlow, and finished inside Ludlow Castle. It's pretty decent, right?
Sounds great.
And Joel's friends were the marshals on the race.
Mm.
And everybody that finished the race,
John. Jesus Christ, I'm tearing up just thinking about it. Gee, that's perfect.
everybody that finished the race said the marshals were fucking amazing. Everybody said it. They were shouting and screaming. Everybody got supported, and it was brilliant.
What a touch. Beautiful.
Yeah, well, do you know what? They volunteered. They literally came to us and said, we'd really like to do this. And we just said, there you go. And they did fabulous. And it was funny. So one of the comics that we had was a guy called Greg Davis. I don't know if you're familiar with Greg Davis. A very tall comedian.
He's the one who used to be a teacher.
On the In-Betweeners, but a teacher in real life as well, yeah.
He was a teacher in real life, yeah. He's hilarious. He's got some great stories from being a teacher.
Oh, the one about his mum's pants is very, very funny.
The one where he's hung over in the toilet cubicle.
Yeah.
But he's still, because he was
Jesus. Oh, God, I'm pathetic. Yeah, that's the one.
And the kids could slay her.
I think he tells that story next to Ryan Gosling, who just can't keep his shit together, because it's a very funny story.
Yeah, it was I saw it on the Graham Norton thing. Yeah.
Some of his some of the stewards, lovely folks, come up to me on the comedy night which followed the race, and they come over. They said, "Could you introduce us to Greg Davis, please?" And I'm like, "Of course I can." And he was absolutely lovely to them. And I said to it, because he knew about the event, he knew what we were raising money for. Ultimately, it's raising funds for Severn Hospice in Shropshire, and he's from Shropshire. His family still live in Shropshire, so he's very familiar with the charity. And I explained about the marshals, and honestly, he had a reaction similar to yours. He was just like, "Oh wow," and he just fucking lovely. So I did that. So the other thing I did, right, with an ex, we organised a wedding fair. right?
Wedding fair.
A wedding fair. So Ludlow Castle had this. This is we're
Ka-ching.
going to have to put we're going to have to put a warning on this. Like, there is no gambling conversation in the first part of this podcast, right? We did this. Have you ever been to a wedding fair?
No, but surely to God, you should be sitting on like wedding fair. Like, wedding money is just insane. Like,
It is. But so my ex-wife used to design and make wedding dresses, right?
okay,
And
that's a high stress job. Jesus Christ.
nah. She was extremely skilled.
Oh, for
I'm
sure.
I'm not going to say a bad word about her. This is Lorna's mum we're talking about.
Dealing with brides must be tough.
God. Yeah, I would say that's probably difficult. But I tagged along with her to a bunch of wedding fairs, and they were uniformly terrible. And she'd found out that Ludlow Castle had finished making like a little wedding venue in the grounds of the castle. So she had this really good idea. She said, well, why don't we go to them and say, we'll do a wedding fair. You give us the venue for free. We'll get the brides in. You get to advertise the venue as this is where we are and you can get married here in this fucking 11th century castle. And she said, but for her payment, all she took was having her like table for free. Every single penny that came in was spent on promoting it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in the average wedding fair, if you get 30 brides through the door, it's been a phenomenal success. Right?
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of them, you might only get 2 or 3, and it's just fucking depressing.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, and then it'd be like flies on shite. Jesus Christ. Everyone would be so... They've just spent like $5,000 on their stand, and like there's 3 brides and everyone's fighting. Oh, that'd be horrible.
Now, we kept the costs low. We vetted people so that there weren't loads of people doing the same thing, and everybody was distributed evenly and all of that. 122 brides. Everybody that was there was like, holy shit. And what you do at the end of it is everybody gets a copy of all of the details because the brides walk in, they register their details. Everybody gets those details. Yeah. Guess what happened?
Somebody stole the list.
One of the stall holders stole the fucking list. And I couldn't prove who it was. So we basically had this list of 122 brides fucking disappeared. People, man. Everything's great until you involve people in things.
But you could have done another, like, you could have done the event again. You made money this time.
Yeah, but the issue then is that you would have to pay for the venue. And it was a very expensive venue. I mean, it's basically an 11th century castle. It's not a cheap venue. I know what they were charging for their weddings, and it was serious money. It's funny, a friend of mine actually got married in there. And I hadn't thought about this when we were setting up all the stuff. But the main venue room is L-shaped, which actually makes it a bit of a nightmare. But anyways, by the by, how did we get onto this? Fucking hell, Fintan. Who's on the podcast?
You talk about events that you ran years ago.
And were highly successful. So I think I can probably run ice for Clarion, is where I was going with that. What?
Oh, stop it. No, you can't.
The ladies with the key cards were the highlight of ice for me. The ladies was Janet. Janet was the main lady that we dealt with. She was tremendous. And the lady that was working with her, whose name's gone clean out of my head, but it also began with a J. She was also really lovely. But the ladies that were in the organisers' offices, they all knew each other because they've all been doing the organisers' offices for Clarion at ICE for years. And I think they all come from the same agency or something. But they were an absolute joy. Big fan, big fan. Janet, if you're listening, we've been thinking of you. That sounded really filthy, didn't it? Especially given the dating talk
Yeah,
earlier.
just a little bit, yeah.
I
And then
feel
just
a
a
little
little
bit.
click at the
I
end.
feel a little bit
There's the finger
seedy
guns at the
now.
end. It was the finger
Oh
guns as well.
yeah, yeah.
It's like,
Oh, I see. In my head, I had Bill Hicks with his Jackie Onassis line. Oh, this. Bill Hicks does that routine about, do you really think Jesus is ever going to come back while we're still wearing fucking crosses? He's like up there saying to his dad, "Dad, I'm not going back. They haven't got it yet. They've got this fucking cross. Why would I want to go and look at that? It hurt." And he said it's like going up to Jackie Onassis wearing a rifle pendant. And then he does, "Just thinking of John, Jackie." And that's what I had in my head when I did that. So I'd like to apologize to Janet and her colleagues. Whew. So who's on the podcast again?
today we have a returning guest, podcast friend, podcast favorite, personal favorite of mine, Frank Op de Woerd. Close enough.
You're getting better.
I'm getting better. It only takes like 10 goes. Frank is editor-in-chief, something like that. Something basically top dog at casinonews.nl. And that's news spelled the Dutch way, which is N-I-E-U-W-S. And Casino News is literally the number one resource for all Dutch casino industry, gambling industry news. Anyway, to describe it, it's like I was at there was an event. There's the law firm, the main kind of gambling Dutch law firm, KKF. They run an event the Friday before ICE every year in Amsterdam, and so it's in like this beautiful club on Dam Square thing, like a members club on Dam Square. And you've got like the regulators and the government ministers and all the C-level from the gambling industry. In this, there's a bar and there's food and there's talks and stuff afterwards. And Justin Franson, one of the named partners of the firm, gets up and he's like introducing everybody and stuff like that. And then he points at Frank and says, "Everybody should read Frank's website. It's great. This is the only thing to read if you want to stay up to date on Dutch gambling industry news," which I thought was like just the most ringing endorsement you could possibly get. So anyway, yeah, and Frank's great. So Frank gives us a lot of updates. We talk about Betsson coming back to the Dutch market, which is a new story and quite interesting because they've got a bit of history in the Netherlands. Frank was the one who broke the BetCity Entain lawsuit stuff going on. We talk about the 24 plus advertising restrictions. We talk about the new or potentially new limits that are being talked about. We veer off into US politics by accident, but there's anyway, it was pretty funny. But yeah, it's a really, really good update of everything that's going on in the Netherlands, which is a core gambling market, and the Dutch love a bit of casino, so it's definitely worth a listen.
I agree with everything Fintan said there.
Oh, Frank also makes fun of my lack of Dutch as a thing as well.
But that's very fair.
I make fun of my lack of Dutch. It's fun. I've got level 4 Duolingo kind of thing. It's fun.
I don't even know what that means, but I'm English, and you know what that means.
I do know what that means.
No other languages, not one. How much Welsh do you think I know?
Have you ever told you my Welsh story?
Bring it.
So in the UK you've got these like stop police actions, like these kind of where it's like UK cops where they follow the cops around and like they're kicking in doors and pulling people over and breaking up fights in the streets and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I've been watching, me and my wife went through this phase where we're watching these cop shows, and I'm like, where is this Headloo place? It must be a real shithole. Right, so all the police had the word Headloo written across the back of their thing. I just assumed it was the local town or whatever it is they're from. Turns out Headloo is Welsh for police. And I think she's still laughing at how stupid I am. Is the best way to describe it. Yeah, that's as much. So I know the Welsh word for police. That's it. That's all I got.
Excellent. I'm not sure on your pronunciation of it.
Oh, well, it's pure phonetic. I've no idea. I've never
Welsh,
seen it written down on the back of it.
Welsh is it's not that far off reading Cyrillic. Like you'll see people in Russia and they'll be looking at a sign. They'll be like, "Well, that's an R," and where we're going, that it's Rostogolgograd, and that's got an R. So that'll be where we're going. No, that's not a fucking R. It just looks like an R. It's not an R. It's a different alphabet. People just don't get it. Welsh is basically the same alphabet, but nothing is as it seems. But I'm tempted to learn a bit of Welsh, just for the sheer hell of it. Because if you walk into a pub in North Wales, everybody's talking English until you speak. And as soon as they hear you speaking English, they all start speaking Welsh. All of them, without exception. And I just want to learn a little bit, just so that I can chip into the conversation. But anyway, so I'm going to get the shit kicked out of me. It's going to be for good reason.
Just so you can walk in, ask for a can of Coke and a pickled egg or something in the local pub. Is that your... You just need a couple of... You need one sentence, right?
In fact, you know what I'll do? I'll just order a sparkling water in English. And then when everybody starts speaking Welsh, I'll just turn around and just add in Welsh, "Oh, and a pickled egg, please." That'll do it. That'll do it.
Just assert dominance.
I'll be fine until somebody speaks to me in Welsh. And oh, fuck. Anyway, meet Frank if you haven't heard him before. And if you have heard him before, Frank's back. We're joined by this week's, first guest, last guest, only guest. I don't know. We're joined by a guest, though. That's the important part to remember. And that's the beauty of doing this to camera, because we can gesture, we gesticulate, we can talk about things and add emphasis. Oh, we can do magic fingers, jazz hands. But anyway, I digress. We're joined by premium guest, I think I can call you, Frank. Do you really need any introduction these days, Frank? I mean, it's got to be, the fourth time you've been on, something like that?
Yeah, something like that. I was waiting for you to call me something like friend of the show or, the regular Dutch reporter.
Definite friend of the podcast. In fact, you know what?
We call him our Dutch stringer. Is that the...
that might have funny connotations in his homeland. Frank,
it's true. It's probably his sex position in the Netherlands.
It probably is. It's probably not a word you would use in Amsterdam.
Fintan wouldn't know. He doesn't speak a word of Dutch after living here for 12 years. So
12 years. That's
so
shameful.
Bad. It was so bad for the first 5 years. I realized after being here for 5 years, and I realized I'd only left Amsterdam on an airplane. I'd seen nothing of the rest of the country.
Holy shit! I've
Come
seen more
to
of
IJsselstein.
I've seen more.
You're
of
always
Netherlands
welcome.
than you. I've been to Amsterdam. I've been to Hoofddorp. I've been to Rotterdam. Been to Ede. I've been all over the fucking place.
Hoofddorp?
I might have said it
visiting
badly.
the Holland Casino headquarters?
I was going to see IGT.
Oh,
that was
their
sense. European head office at the time. Of course, now it's London. But that was when James Boget was running things, the excellent James Boget, who's now, of course, at GLI. Good time. So, actually, do you know what, Frank? Do you want to introduce yourself? Because you're like one of the team anyway. So,
yeah, I guess I can do that. Frank Op de Woerd, editor-in-chief and co-founder of CasinoNews.nl, the premier #1 and basically the only news website focused on the Dutch regulated online gambling market. I've been at the game for quite some time. I was a poker reporter before this. but now I'm focused on casino because that's where the money is supposedly. Yeah, and we have a regulated market since October 21, and I have been quite busy ever since because there's new developments just about every week. So that's why I've been on the podcast for a couple times. That's why I requested to be on again, because there's some new developments and you guys could pick a better time, because today there was another a big news story. Yeah.
Huge news story. So I think we should just kick off with the Betsson story, because
Hang on, Fintan, hang on. Let's just give Frank a bit of a nod here and just say that was a really good intro you did for yourself.
Thank you.
It's good work.
Very
Frank.
good intro.
Thanks.
Very good.
Appreciate
intro.
that. So Fintan, what were you jibber jabbering about?
Okay, so it was hilarious because I saw the news break this morning and I messaged Frank going, today's episode takes care of itself. This is brilliant.
Anybody watching on video, he actually types like that. He looks like a Muppet.
Just like that. It's pretty fast. It's pretty fast. 40 words a minute. So Betsson announcement today. Betsson have bought a casino company and are technically back in the Netherlands. However, before we talk about that bit, I'd like, there's probably a bit of nuance there. Could you, if possible, like give a quick history of Betsson's roller coaster Netherlands adventure over the last however many years?
It's been quite a timeline, actually. So in 2014, yeah, we're going way back here. Betsson bought Oranje Casino and Kroon Casino, Orange Casino and Crown Casino, basically. Two big brands in the Netherlands. Regulation was imminent. It could happen anytime. Kroon and Oranje were big brands, so they were really set for the Dutch market, 2014. Well, we all know what happened next. It took years before we got a regulated market here. And in the meantime, obviously, Betsson still operated those casinos, but they weren't really happy with how things were going. They were sending angry letters to the newspapers complaining about the situation in the Netherlands. They got fined.
They paid quite a lot of money as well, though, right? It was a huge, I know it's a while ago now, but it was a lot of money even.
At the time, I think it was reported 100 million, maybe a little bit more. Yeah, that is a lot of money. I mean, these days, obviously, billion-dollar deals are just about every other week happening. But yeah, at the time, it definitely was big, especially, of course, for a relatively small country like the Netherlands. Obviously, they still operated those brands, even though there was no regulated market at the time. They were fined in, let me think, 2018. They were obviously unhappy with that, so they fought it in court. That did not work. And they always said, we're gonna apply for a license. We're gonna be try and be there right when the market kicks off. Well, at the end of September, right before October 1st hit 2021, obviously there was like a little bit of a last minute call that any company that is not didn't comply with the rules before, they have to sit it out. We have a cooling down period. So it was quite a while for the company to be able to apply for a license. That took a little while. Then they applied for the license, because it's a public company. Obviously, I checked all their quarterly reports and see, where are we at? It took quite some time. They delayed, and then basically at one point they said there's an issue with the CDB. It's the controle database. It's basically the database where you need to communicate with the regulator in the Netherlands. Every single bet, every single login attempt, basically everything from your platform, from all the users. And a lot of the companies have issues there. That's believed to be the main issue why Flutter or PokerStars never got their license, and some others have issues there as well. So eventually, let me just see where this was at, is in 2023. Basically, they said in July, they said, okay, we're not applying for a license anymore. We're canceling that whole thing. And I reached out to Pontus Lindwall and I said, can I interview you about this? He said, yeah, that's sure. So I was expecting an interesting talk. Now he's, going to complain about the Dutch legislation, about the CDB requirements and whatnot. But he was very laid down. He was still, he said we're not in the process anymore, but he didn't, he wasn't angry, or he wasn't closing the door entirely. So I was thinking maybe they're trying a different approach here, I already was kind of suspecting something like that. We've seen it in the Netherlands with Entain failing to get a license and then buying BetCity and then still getting access to the Dutch market. So I kind of suspected something like that. And I think it was December or November, actually, maybe, or December, I got some sources saying Betsson is in talks with 2 companies trying to buy a Dutch license. Well, we have 27 licensees. A lot of them are live, some of them are not. So, I was looking at the list. It can't be too many. Then I got the news that it was either One Casino or Gold Run Casino. Basically, there were two options, and one source is no source, 2 sources is half a source, and 3 sources is a story. But I never got the confirmation, so I never published anything. But we had the article actually set in our CMS already. So when the news broke this morning, we only had to click publish because So we were a little bit too late. We didn't break the news, but yeah, it's big news. Betsson is returning, and obviously they haven't disclosed if they're bringing back Kroon and Orion Casino, but I imagine they are because, to be honest, with all respect for Gold Run Casino, it's not a household name or anything. They don't have any major brand recognition in the Netherlands, so I expect they're gonna use one of 3 brands, but most likely.
So how does the regulation work? Because obviously there's a change. So there's a license issue to go. So Gold Run would have gone through the licensing process, received the license.
Yeah.
There's now, in theory, a change of ownership.
Yeah.
They don't have to restart the licensing process?
No, but you have to inform the regulator, and they have to approve it. And to be honest, I imagine that Betsson, when they applied for their license themselves, they got through the scrutiny test of the ownership question. Otherwise, they would never try it. Same with Entain. They failed on some other subject. Otherwise, they would fail again, of course. So they must feel confident they'll successfully get that part.
If it was a software technicality, you just say, well, we're going to use this software, which you've already approved, and that's how we're going to manage that bit or whatever. Okay, I understand.
Yeah. Basically, that's, obviously I'm not the regulator and I have not been in that position myself, but I know that BetCity was waiting, or the Entain acquisition was waiting for the approval from the regulator, which took, I think, something like 9 or 10 months, but they got it eventually. So this is probably not going to be, done tomorrow or launching Kroon Casino tomorrow here in the Netherlands, I imagine, but it's going to take a little while because the regulator still needs to approve it.
Understood. Okay, that's Betsson's back, and the Netherlands was a super important market for them.
Yeah,
many years ago. Same way it was for like Kindred and Unibet and stuff as well. So that's a big deal. The other brands you've mentioned quite a lot is BetCity and Entain. So I think from me and John, a round of applause. It's not often that journalists in the industry break news. So really well done. So for people who aren't familiar, Frank is the one who broke the news of the Entain BetCity court case.
Yep.
So do you want to elaborate a little bit what's going on there?
Well, I was just telling you, one source is no source, blah, 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 blah. But when the one source is actually the court itself, that's proper enough. I got some information from some people that this was something that was taking place. Obviously, I had no idea what it was exactly about, but I knew that there was a court case coming up, and obviously, it can only be so many things when a big British gambling company buys a Dutch company, and then they're I don't even remember what the court is called in England. That's a specific court, but we could guess. And then I just asked the court, "Can I get these documents?" And that is something you guys do there in the UK. So eventually, 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later, after I initially reported on it, I just got the documents, and so we were with the company on a workation in Cabo Verde. We were about to hit the beach. We were about to relax. It was Friday afternoon, have a couple drinks, and then I got that in my inbox. And then, that got my blood pumping a little bit, because that's, one of the more exciting things that can happen when you're reporting on the gambling industry, that you have something unique that nobody else has, or at least you hope nobody else has it. And we reported on that case. Obviously, I asked Entain, I asked BetCity for a response. Obviously, I didn't get it. No comments, but at least I tried. And there's some unhappy people, I guess, in both companies, and it's a headache for the former owners. It's a headache for the Entain people, I imagine. But yeah.
So did I understand it right? So when Entain bought BetCity, when you do M&A, there's like what's called disclosures, and I've learned this the hard way, or not the hard way, but I've learned about this more recently.
It's all coming out now.
No, it's fine. But you realize you're signing your life away. So disclosures are, hey, is there anything we should know about? And
it's like selling a house, isn't it?
Yeah, like, oh, well, there's the subsidence, but don't worry about it. Kind of.
Yeah, the neighbours are wankers.
Yeah. Oh, the flight path, in the underground tunnel.
It's built on an old Native American graveyard.
It gets busy at Halloween. So disclosures are, hey, is there stuff that we don't know about or you haven't told us? And you end up what's called reps and warranties, which is like, we promise that we're not being sued. We promise that we've got no accounting regularities. We promise that everything's correct, kind of thing. And for all these different kind of subcategories. So if I understand it correctly, the court case is around, there was some investigations into BetCity or some fines or some regulatory stuff pending, which apparently wasn't disclosed. Obviously, allegedly, apparently, it's all still got to go through due process, wasn't disclosed. Some fines arrived last year, and now Entain, with the change in leadership, with Private Jetta heading back to Copenhagen, there's obviously like we need to tidy some stuff up and do whatever. So it seems to be around that. Have I got that? Did I get that right, or is it a bit more than that?
Yeah. No, it's exactly as you're describing it. If you're trying to compare it to selling your house, it's like basically, is the municipality having an investigation, or is there a leakage? You have to disclose it. Similar thing happened here, and we could already tell that there was something going on, because the initial sale price was 300 million minimum. We're expecting this to cost 450 million, but if they're doing really, really well, it's going to be 850. Yeah, crazy amounts of money. Then after the first year, they said, it's not going to take 450. It's probably going to take cost us 350. Okay, so or 450 something. I don't know. There was already they were already dropping the expected price. And now the news has come out, at least that Entain is saying that you guys were aware of 2 different investigations already by the regulator, one for AML and one for marketing towards young adults, which is both. They got a fine for one for 3 million and one for 400,000. So those are relatively big fines, especially in the Netherlands.
But as a percentage of the purchase price, it's kind of like, well, look, just knock off 3.5 million and
that's basically
like, as a percentage, it's like, who cares, lads? It's just, we're good.
Yeah, well, that's pretty clear that they agreed upon that already. So they said, well, you were aware of these investigations, while you declared that you weren't aware of these 2 investigations. And obviously, this is still allegedly. This is Entain side. But if that is the case, it's got to be a hard sell to say like we weren't aware when there's already numerous emails, announcing the investigation from the regulator to the BetCity people.
So okay, and again, would you imagine if you're like the big corporate M&A department at a big company like Entain, you're buying basically buying local market access. You got to buy this brand to get your licensing, local licenses. You would think they would like have a chat with the regulator, going, "Hey, we're buying this company. Are we all good?"
Yeah.
Like it's interesting that it didn't come out during discovery or during like the license. Like
I'm no M&A expert, but I'm not 100% sure if the regulator in the Netherlands does any sort of talks or communicate about license holders to outside parties. I don't know.
Yeah.
And the issue is obviously like you hinted at before, like just write off the 3.4 million and we'll be fine. That's what the Entain and the old owners, the family singles already agreed upon. But Entain is now saying like, well, this company is worth a whole lot less than all those millions, having already been fined twice, because we don't have a 3 strikes and you're out system in the Netherlands by any means, but it is something that some of the politicians are looking at. And I could imagine a brand and a license being worth a little bit less when they're already in the bad standings with the regulator. But that is kind of speculation from my side as well. But it's at least what Entain is saying.
Yeah, because you could easily like argue, look, that was the old guys, new ownership, like you could feel like you could have those conversations. So it feels like okay,
one of the things is, and this is kind of speculation as well, because this is not 100% in those documents. But if you have AML failings, that obviously the regulator is not just going to fine you 3 million; they're going to demand you change your processes, right? So if you have people depositing 100 million each month and you're not asking a simple question, that's an AML failing. So I imagine if they were the processes were lacking, then obviously now Entain comes in and they need to tighten certain things, because they are not going to get 100 million in deposits every month, because they need to tighten it, because the regulator said, you got to fine and you need to change all of these things. So if you're looking at deposits,
that makes a lot of sense. The thing is, like with not disclosing the investigations and all that, it's a bit of a slap on the wrist, and it's pretty stupid. But I think if you could look over the executives that were selling it and they all had their share options, you'd probably find they Googled the terms extradition treaty, no extradition treaty with Netherlands, etc. But we're not talking about anything that would cause the potential value of a business to halve. So what you're saying makes perfect sense, because what we're talking about is if they are adhering to the actual regulations and the law, that the revenue is not what they thought they were buying at all.
That is, but again, this is speculation. I haven't looked at their numbers. Obviously, it
does make perfect sense, because it
unfortunately
can't just
they're
be
not sending their stuff to me. Unfortunately, I wish, but it's one of the things I can imagine is the case, and that's what they're fighting over. And obviously, I imagine there's going to be a settlement somewhere, somehow. This is. I don't think they're going to fight it out for the next 10 years, or at least that's not what I expect. But at least the start is there.
Got it. So look, that's going to be an evolving story, as they say. So I'm learning the lingo, lads. I'm learning the lingo. That makes sense. When you were talking about that, you touched on one other thing, which is the advertising to under 24s.
Yeah. It's a big no-no in the Netherlands.
How? Like, why 24s?
It's a really arbitrary age there.
I can, you can go fight for the Netherlands when you're 8. You join the army at 18, probably younger, but
Probably.
you can gamble, but you can't be advertised to. What's how's all that working out?
All right, I haven't come up with this myself, but this is the story. Research from reputable researchers has shown, at least in the Netherlands, that young adults up until 24 are more easily getting addicted to gambling. So when you're 18 in the Netherlands, you're an adult. So, they couldn't set the limit to when you are allowed to start gambling at 24, because that's basically in the first law book that we have here in the Netherlands. But they did, from the get-go, wanted to call this group young adults, and you can't focus on them, not when you're advertising, not when you're targeting, not when you're, they're not allowed. We can't touch them, basically.
Sure.
Not as an affiliate, not the operators, and we've always understood that, and that's been the case since the law got introduced. And a lot of the companies in the Netherlands got fines because they were still sending out bonus emails to basically their entire database.
Mm-hmm.
But they should have excluded the group till 24. So that's why BetCity, but like Toto and Bet365 and Jax and Bingo all got the same fines, all 400K for sending out these bonus emails to this young adults group.
But it also applies to affiliates, right? So affiliates have to have this really annoying pop-up that says, "Are you over 24?" And
so
it's
basically,
it's beyond just like, it's not just a CRM thing; it's a blanket marketing.
Yeah, so since July 1st last year, we call it the ORCA degree. Affiliates, but like basically all online marketing by legal operators are not allowed to focus on this group, and all affiliates and all websites that show banners or whatever need to prove to the operator actually that a maximum of 5% of their audience is younger than 24, between 18 and 24. So obviously that's kind of arbitrary, and how we're proving this is using Google Analytics. So we're looking at all our audience, and we're looking at the group 18 till 24, and that group can't be bigger than 5% of our overall audience. And like I said, the operators are the gatekeepers. So we, as an affiliate, report to the operator. We do it monthly now, and the operator sends that information upon request to the regulator, and they check if we are compliant. That was a major headache last year to try and comply. Some of the bigger affiliates quit. The biggest one, they quit, so they sold their business to us actually. But some others quit, some others switched to illegal offering again. Some only have a couple operators left. So yeah, it's been a shockwave really through affiliate, but also through online marketing in general here in the Netherlands.
Because it's tough, right? Because if you're like an SEO affiliate, it's like you can't control who clicks the link in Google. Like your job is to try and influence the position in Google, and then after that, it's just, we're going to be representative of the national population. Like it's a very inbound.
Yeah,
it's very difficult it's impossible, really.
Well, it's not impossible because we're compliant and we're doing it. Obviously, I'm not going to explain exactly how we're doing it, because otherwise I would, tip off everyone. But in general, there was a consultation before these rules, and I went to The Hague and obviously showed them what my stats at the time. I was at 11%, 10% of young adults, which was at the time there was no set limit to 5% or 10%. I was just showing them what a typical affiliate was working with. Yep. And obviously I said it's a bad idea if you're trying to get this to 5% or anything, but Google and Facebook, Meta, and the biggest group of regular traditional media in the Netherlands, they kind of convinced the ministry that they could get to 5%. Yeah.
So the guy is selling ads.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds kind of unfair, and it is pretty unfair because obviously, in general, not just in the Netherlands, but I guess worldwide, there's a movement against targeting and Google knowing everything about you. Yeah, you know, so it kind of felt going the other way around, or yeah, backwards really. But we had to live with it, and we had to find a solution, and we found one, and it's a sustainable solution as well. Because the first thing I noticed is I'm presenting my visitors with a pop-up like, how old are you? Are you over 24 or younger than 24? You know, the people that click that they're younger than 24, they still get my website, but there's no ads showing. And you know, I'm not showing them any gambling ads. I'm just showing them news article, which is obviously allowed. But a lot of people lie. People are liars. You know, they tell me that they're over 24, but Google tells me afterwards at the end of the month that a lot of people were still younger than 24, because obviously, you know, especially John, but maybe Fintan as well, you know, you just click if you visit some sort of kind of iffy site, I don't know, you know, weird websites, you know, you just click anything that you think that gets you the original, right? Click, yeah, of course I'm over 24. Of course I'm not in the state of Alabama or whatever it is, you know, if you. Yeah.
Of course I accept all these cookies. Like,
yeah, of course. Just go ahead, show me the page, please. Yeah. So that wasn't really working. We still have to show it because we still need to show that we've done everything we can to exclude the group, and we need to give them an option not to see any gambling ads. But we need to do more, and we are doing a lot more. It costs us a lot of money to build up the platform to make sure that we're only showing ads to 24 years of age and older. But yeah, we survived, and a lot of other big affiliates have survived as well. So I think we're in good standing. I still have a good relationship with the regulator and the ministry. So they've seen our stats, and I think they're happy with it. So,
well done, really well done. I'm glad it's not me having to navigate that. It sounds like an absolute nightmare.
Yeah,
ugh,
it is. It
horrible,
was
horrible. Next question is limits. There's talk of limits coming in. What's going on?
Playing limits. Yeah, another exciting subject here in the Netherlands. So we had elections a couple months ago, but the new government hasn't been formed yet. But basically, the old parties are still trying to limit what we can do here in the Netherlands when it comes to gambling. A lot of the parties basically, they hate online gambling. They don't see any upside to it. They want to kill it, and well, they haven't killed it yet, but they're still trying. One of the latest motions that was agreed upon, that got a majority in the what is it called, Tweede Kamer, second chamber here in the Netherlands, is there needs to be playing limits, and basically they want it before the summer. Well, that is obviously impossible because the technical privacy. Just the implementation alone, you know, this can never happen before the summer. But the goal is very clear. There needs to be central playing limits. And if these are deposit limits or loss limits or whatever, it's not 100% exactly given just yet. And they need to reach central. And they've said, you know, they can do it in Germany. I guess you guys can do it here in the Netherlands, but obviously we know in Germany it's not really working. In Belgium, they
realize how much money the offshore guys are making in Germany, right?
Well, I don't think they do. I don't think they understand how big the black market is in Germany, or how big of a massive fail it was in Belgium when they tried it and it just gave up. But yeah, I mean. So the first thing is the regulator actually is coming up with limits, but they will not be central. They will be on a license holder level.
Okay.
And that's gonna be, I think, from the top of my head, 350 for young adults per month and 700 for adults per month. And then if you can afford to lose more or play more, you can, talk to the operator and show them your bank statements or whatever,
Okay.
and then you can up it. That's one of the ideas.
So it's not as strict as Germany, which is just like, this is it. There's an affordability check.
Yeah, that's the idea right now. Obviously,
Okay.
that this isn't implemented right now. I think they want it implemented in May, which is already kind of optimistic, I feel, but okay. And then there's plans from the ministry actually to have limits of 300 euros and 150 for young adults, but you can go for the affordability check. And then now, obviously, like I said, some of the politicians are forcing their hand, and they want it central, and they don't want affordability checks. They just want to cap it at a certain amount. So it's still an ongoing process. There hasn't been any 100% decisions made, but it is all set in motion, and they are gonna happen. I'm not sure if they're gonna be central.
But it sounds like it sounds like there are some reasonable and rational voices in that argument, which is weird. Some of the limits that have been posited sound reasonable, and some of them are obviously very, very restrictive. But I mean, that's really surprising, because whenever limits have been talked about in the UK, it brings out the polarity in the argument. It's like people say, "Oh, yeah, 50 quid a month. Yeah, that's more than enough. Oh, if you lose more than that, you've obviously got a problem." Or people say, "Well, there shouldn't be any limits." Well,
Yeah, well, I feel both the regulator and the ministry, they understand a little bit more what's going on, how people gamble, what the result would be if you limit it too much, But the politicians, especially those a little bit more on the religious, the Christian parties in my country, they don't understand, or they don't want to understand, they don't want to listen, and they are trying to force it and kill it and get those limits as small as possible. But so far, when it comes to the regulator and the ministry, I feel they do understand what the impact would be.
Yeah.
But
speaking of Christian parties, though, Christians know how to party.
Well, I guess not in the Netherlands, especially not Miss Mirjam Bikker, who is leading this whole thing.
Oh,
she
no, see,
she dislikes. She does not party, especially not in the casino, I feel.
I was thinking of. Sorry, Fintan.
So I was going to say, if I was an offshore operator right now, I'd be praying for some.
Yeah.
I would turn religious to try and get these like as strict as possible, and then
I have some indication of what the illegal, the offshore market is in the Netherlands. Not 100%, but you can see it growing. I was at ICE last week. Everyone's asking for Dutch traffic. A lot of the illegal operators, they are starting again with their brands in allowing the Dutch people. I get texts literally daily from illegal casinos if I want to come back and deposit. And so, yeah, even though this is not research or anything, but I know that the illegal market's already growing in the Netherlands, and they're laughing their ass off of what's happening here in the Netherlands. It's kind of devastating, obviously, because it's the other way around. We should be working towards 90%, 95% channelization, everyone legally gambling, and they're killing that.
Quick thought, though, we shouldn't call it a deposit from a returning customer. We should call it a reposit. Just throwing that out there. Let's change the language. Now, when I was a teenager, there was a young man who came to my hometown, Ludlow, and it was like an exchange thing, but I don't know who the hell he exchanged with, because he ended up in the house of an old lady, right? And she lived opposite one of my best mates, a girl called Kerry, and so Kerry's mum, who was big friends with the other old lady. Well, Kerry's mum wasn't old, but everybody seemed old then. She said, "Oh, go and talked to him. I'm sure he's very nice, just this Dutch teenager. And so she met him, and she's like, oh, for fuck's sake, She said, you're going to have to help me out with this. And I met him, and he was an absolute legend, had no experience with girls or alcohol, so I sorted him out on those counts straight away. I think he had a very memorable stay. But his name was Christian, which is why I say Christians know how to party, because by the time he left, he was a fucking animal. So if you know any Dutchmen...
Well, some Christians, yeah.
Christian Verbeek. Tell him I said hello.
Well, we were once a very liberal country, except for Christian, who came as an exchange student there, I guess, and you showed him the ropes. Thank you for that. But other than that, we used to be very open-minded, but these days on numerous subjects, we're not so much anymore.
But that's not.
But thanks for that backstory. Very fascinating.
It's not restricted to the Netherlands. Everywhere is moving towards that. And it's interesting. I maybe this isn't the place for sort of such a dive into sociology, but I've got these growing theories about the polarity of people and people's need to find tribes, and actually people moving towards the church is part of that, because I do believe that a lot of the polarity in society comes from the decline of the influence of the church and people not having this stable body of faith. Now, I've always said, faith can be anything.
I saw some orange guy selling sneakers in the US for $3,000 or $400.
$400,
and he is.
They sold out.
Yeah, it's
he made 5 pairs.
But he is just about the Antichrist. But at the same time, the people that are going to these churches, they embrace Trump. So what's going on there, John? Do you have a theory?
It is the exact same thing, because when I say faith, I don't necessarily mean religious faith. What I've learned in my life is that what is important is faith in something. And these people that are supporting people like Trump, their ideology, the Trumpian ideology, pretty much mirrors that of their church. He's been very, very clever in how he's done that, or his managers have been very clever in how they've done that. There's a guy in the casino industry who he summed up Trump's appeal amazingly succinctly. And when I say this sentence to you, you're going to say, "Holy shit, he's right." It's a chap called Paul Spears Hernandez. Huge fan of Paul. And Paul said to me, he said, the one thing you've got to understand about Trump is he has given his supporters someone to look down on.
And that's the Mexicans?
It's everybody that's not them. It's the left are insane, the Mexicans. He's given that. He's elevated them. Almost accidentally.
But this is the big challenge. Like, if you look at in a lot of countries now, like, young adults won't have a better life than their parents.
Yeah.
It's because of, cost of housing, inflation, job opportunities, these kind of things. So when you've got that kind of negative, prospects for the future, people get very defensive and you kind of retreat. And that's why we create the them and us and immigrants coming in here and all of these kind of negative things come out of what feels like your lack of prospects for the future.
But it still baffles me that once you see such a trend that you embrace literally the Antichrist in Trump, or that you blame immigrants instead of really looking at the things, or trying to kill online gambling again. Look at the bigger picture and who's really at fault, or what's really going to happen. Data, study that instead of just listening to your gut. And
that's the thing, right? That's the thing. What we're talking about is you're saying, why isn't there a rational response? We're not talking about rational responses. We're talking about emotional responses.
Yeah, I hate those.
And that's where faith is a super important thing. And it, like I say, it can be faith in anything. For me, as stupid as this sounds, but this is an incredible moment of realization for me. I realized I was feeling absolutely untethered. I was feeling completely unanchored after my dog died. And I realized actually my faith was in my dog. And it's a daft thing, but it's just an example of faith can be, when you say faith, people assume religious faith. It can be faith in your football team. It can be faith in your significant other. But faith in something is really important. And that is what Trump has done. And that's what people should be looking at and figuring out how he's done that. Because he's taken the disenfranchised and he's given them a cause. That's the thing that needs to be studied, because that's been done before by a very significant leader in the 20th century.
Yeah, but at least with that Austrian-born guy, I had an idea that even though obviously I disagree with everything he stood for, and he was
don't say
no,
but.
no. He might have been an intelligent guy for all the wrong reasons, but Trump is like literally extremely dumb. And he's
no argument for me, but
like, how can you follow that guy?
I suspect that he's got like people around him who are very, very clever.
Who are these extremely clever people around him? Because I've not seen him.
That's the point. You're not seeing them.
No, he's got like a
spin doctor somewhere.
No, he's just like it's like you've met these guys before. It's the bully who just bullies everyone around him and just gets.
But you don't get there twice by accident. There is somebody smart in the background.
There's definitely people, that it suits. Look, if we get him in, the stock market's going to go up, taxes are going to go down, we're going to make more money, regulations are going to get blocked for the next tariff. So for sure, there's money behind it that it makes sense.
There are definitely enablers, but
and if you there's a really good book called the
Don't say
Koch
dark
brothers.
Money.
No, yeah, well, no, it's about the Koch brothers. So it's Koch. They pronounce it Coke. Reads like cock. But they
love the cock.
They love the cock. So two brothers. They inherited the business for their father. Took it over, and it was like chemical processing, right? So they realized they could buy off judges. So for them, it's not about Supreme Court
Fintan,
judges.
that's dark money you're talking about.
It is dark money. It's a brilliant book, right?
Great,
and so they realized that they could organize legal education seminars in a 5-star resort somewhere sunny with a golf course, and fly out all these local judges to do expert learning type stuff. And then all of a sudden, they're funding some little campaigns because a lot of them get elected. And so then when it comes to, hey, water pollution in this local area, they've basically got the judge in the back pocket. And it costs, relatively speaking, pennies. And then they've just learned to kind of scale that up all the way till you end up with a Trump-esque type figure. And it's a lot of what's behind the issues with the Republican Party, because a dysfunctional government isn't passing laws, which means these guys can just do whatever they want.
Also, the way that it's operating at the moment is increasing the polarity of the argument in the US. I know quite a few Republicans, and they're not idiots. They're decent people. They've got opinions on politics. They're, a lot of them are in the gambling industry. To dismiss
if
Trump's,
you're a Republican and you're still supporting Trump, then you are a terrible person. I mean, if you vote for him, all of them, half of America, I don't care, all of them.
But
all these, if you're still supporting Trump with everything he's done and said,
there is the historical angle of voting as well, and that is really important. It's like in the UK. Well, would anybody really vote Conservative? Well, hang on, they got back in last time, those fucks. And they did nothing to warrant
if the decision is between like an old guy Biden, where you can have, and Trump, I don't care who's on the other side than Trump. I vote the other guy if I would be eligible to vote. I don't care about any sort of, obviously Biden is too old and whatnot, but he's like a million times better than Trump. So okay, that's off my chest.
All our American listeners sitting here going, God, these three idiots.
They have no idea. I don't know.
They don't even understand the collegiate voting system, these boneheads.
What opinion, right? You guys have to have an opinion to US
Nobody fucking understands the collegiate system.
But I agree that my opinion is worthless on this subject. But yeah.
But look, America is so important to the world. That's why we've all got opinions.
And I still enjoy visiting it. So
for sure. for sure. Frank, anything else going on in the Netherlands?
Well, we've got a massive real election coming up. Online Casino of the Year awards. Fintan, Fintan is one of the judges there. Yeah,
No
so I'm
way.
very happy about that. We're celebrating, trying to do something positive for a change for the Dutch online casinos.
Last year, it was the best party during the affiliate conference was Frank's Dutch Casino of the Year party. It was
There you go.
phenomenal.
John, if you're there, you're invited.
Was
Free
Christian
drinks.
Verbeek there? Because if he's there, it's a party.
Probably.
He's probably he's probably living on the streets by now, and he's probably flashing people for money to buy.
Christian is obviously a very common first name, but Verbeek is kind of rare, so we should be able to track him down. You can invite him.
Excellent. If I can find him in his address under a bridge somewhere, and I'll probably accept full responsibility for that. Yeah, we've all skirted dangerously close to the edge, but it's interesting that Fintan's a judge.
Well, he doesn't speak Dutch, but he lives here in the Netherlands, so he has access to all these online casinos, and he knows what he's talking about. I mean, we don't know anything about the American politics and whatnot, but when we're talking about online gambling,
I know a free spin when I see it.
Yeah,
I've got that.
As long as you're not a young adult, you're allowed to get some free spins here in the Netherlands.
Long gone. I wish.
Yeah,
Really,
I was in doubt.
Sorry, sir, you're too young for this.
You weren't allowed to be a judge if you were a young adult. So.
Indeed.
Shameful.
Brilliant, Frank. Thank you so much. Well, look, clearly you're going to be a busy man. We'll have to have you back for updates. And we'll see you for the Dutch Casino Awards.
I'll see you guys in July. Thanks for having me again.
Brilliant. Thanks, man.
If you've enjoyed this episode of the Gambling Files podcast, please find us on LinkedIn. Give us a big, juicy, succulent like. That nearly went wrong. You can find us under the name The Gambling Files Podcast. You can find us on Twitter under The Gambling Files. I think the handle is just @GamblingFiles. You can connect to myself, John Bruford, or Fintan Costello, also on LinkedIn. We're also both on Twitter. And you can find all of our previous episodes at www.thegamblingfiles.com. If you enjoyed it, please share, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your colleagues, and we'll see you next time.